The Criterion flash sale was earlier this month, and I got 7 titles. There was really only one movie that I knew I wanted to get for sure. Other than that, I just had like a few ideas of like categories that I was like sort of looking at, but not specific titles, except for the first one that I'll show you. I'm gonna kind of go in order of like how I was adding them to my cart and what I was narrowing down and like making decisions on. I was pretty open this time around. Again, like there was only the one that I was like dead set on getting. Other than that, it was just certain areas of film that I wanted to explore more and have in my collection more, and I will get to those like specific things as I go through the stack here. So the one film I knew I wanted to get was Wanda from 1970, spine number 965. There are a few people, specifically women, who have mentioned this in their either like Letterboxd top 4 videos or the Criterion Closet videos, and it's just caught my attention. Like I watched a few of those videos in succession. Like numerous people mentioned it, and I was like, I like kind of know about that, and I think it's time to get it. So I decided to get it. I know that Pamela Anderson is one of the people who mentioned it in her Criterion Closet video, but that's the only person that I can think of off the top of my head for sure. And this is directed by and starring Barbara Loden, who plays the title character of Wanda. And I thought this had to do with Wanda. She like leaves her husband, is divorcing her husband, she loses custody of her children, and I thought it had to do with her getting her children back, but the back of the case doesn't like specifically say that. It just mentions that she now finds herself alone, drifting between dingy bars and motels, where she falls prey to a series of callous men, including a bank robber who ropes her into his next criminal scheme. I don't know if I had just like assumed that that part of the plot was something she was doing so that she could get her kids back, or if somebody had mentioned that before, or I'm just making that up and that's not part of her reasoning. But I've heard this is a very like raw and compassionate and individual film, moving and perhaps harrowing, but I haven't watched it yet, so I can't like review it more. This also has a featurette of I Am Wanda, which is an hour-long documentary featuring an interview with Barbara Loden from 1980, as well as another short film by Barbara Loden called The Frontier Experience from 1975. And then movies from the 1930s was one of the other categories. I'll say like women's stories is the category that like Wanda would belong to kind of more specifically, and then 30s and 30s adjacent films were another main category. These next two I've actually seen before, and I had put off getting for a while. They were only available on DVD and like were still needed to be upgraded for a bit, but it's been at least a handful of years since I think they were upgraded, and now I'm finally getting them. Happy to add them into my collection because it's been, I mean, way longer since I've seen them. First, I have Sullivan's Travels, which is from 1941, hence the adjacent. That's just what I meant. I guess sometimes when I'm thinking about 1930s films, I'm also thinking of those like cusp years. If I'm gonna stretch it out a lot, I would say like 1927 to 1943 maybe. So yeah, Sullivan's Travels from 1941. It's by number 118. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to move all of my movies over. And I know this was high in my... I have like this private Letterboxd list called Next Criterion Sale, and it's basically just a list that allows me to kind of sort what I'm thinking about getting for the next Criterion sale. Because, you know, like the wish list on Criterion's website in your account, like you can't really rearrange things. And so whatever I'm thinking about getting the most, you know, I'll move to the top of my Letterboxd list there. The last flash sale or the Barnes & Noble sale, one of the last sales I got, I Married a Witch. That being another Veronica Lake film. Sullivan's Travels was also very high in that wish list. And this one has to do with a Hollywood director who wants to make a particular movie, a serious, socially responsible film about human suffering, but people in the industry are like, you don't know about human suffering. So he gives up his things temporarily and lives the life as a hobo, basically, and at one point encounters Veronica Lake. And I want to say Veronica Lake's character is actually a hobo, but maybe I'm just like picturing her in this like dingy, like almost page boy kind of outfit and assuming that because I don't remember the exact details. But basically they meet and it's a satirical comedy with some heartfelt moments. It says written and directed by Preston Sturges, but I feel like I mix up like old Hollywood directors all the time. I have a hard time like keeping them straight. It's only like contemporary directors and like French directors that I'm like able to match their films to them. Besides like Hitchcock, because he's such an outlier. And then the other one here that I've seen before is My Man Godfrey from 1936, actually a 30s film. Spine number 114. This one is kind of similar to Sullivan's Travels because it also has to do with critiquing social classes and doing so in a comedic way. This one's definitely more in the screwball comedy territory and stars Carole Lombard and William Powell. There's also like a remake of this from the I want to say like 54. That one's not as good though. Who is that? David Niven and June Allison. This is probably my favorite Carole Lombard film. And she plays this carefree socialite who, like, her family is like playing this game where they have to like find someone less fortunate, and whoever, wait, is this kind of like Dogfight? Whoever has like the most down on their luck person like finds the person in the worst situation wins. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Irene, an eccentric, wealthy Manhattanite, wins a society ball scavenger hunt after finding a forgotten man, an apparent down-and-out drifter at a dump. She gives him work as the family butler and soon falls head over heels for him. Okay, so it doesn't really describe the game, but the game is like the scavenger hunt. Oh, I guess maybe like the last thing on the list is like finding a forgotten man, someone less fortunate, someone fallen on tough times. And then she wins the scavenger hunt, and somehow the man that she ends up finding, she hires as her butler. And just to say a little more about this, I'll also read how the back says it is one of Hollywood's greatest commentaries on class and the social unrest of the Depression era. Great. Looking forward to rewatching this. I don't know how this one came to be in my cart. I don't remember exactly. I was probably just looking through like the home sale page, which I love looking at. I like looking at all the different categories and things that they're kind of promoting more during the sale. So it was either that or it being further down in my Criterion wish list, letterbox list, and that is La Vérité from 1960, spine number 960. This, as you may be able to tell just from the cover, or if you've heard of it before, is in that women's stories category of movies that I picked up here. I know that this has to do with a young woman played by Brigitte Bardot, who is accused of murdering her boyfriend, or is caught up in a trial surrounding his death. I also know that this was a very controversial film, and I'm pretty sure that had to do with the making of it and not the subject itself, like what the film depicts. I think there's a controversy surrounding like the making of the film and such, but I don't really know about that. I think there is a supplemental feature though. Le Scandale Clouzot, a 60-minute documentary from 2017 on director Henri-Georges Clouzot, which, I mean, considering it's called The Scandal Clouzot, I'm assuming that will give me more information on the scandal, on the controversy. I watched the trailer either on Criterion's website or on Letterboxd, and when I was trying to figure out exactly what I was getting, when I was like narrowing down my cart a little bit, or like I had like 4 titles basically that I was choosing, okay, I'm gonna do these 2 or these 2. Before I got to that point, I went through and was like watching certain trailers and stuff, and I mean, this one was one I was not even thinking about getting during the sale necessarily. It wasn't exactly like on my mind of titles to get, but after I watched the trailer, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get this for sure. But I'm gonna read some of the information on here on the back just because I think it's really interesting, and if you happen to not know, then it may also intrigue you. Beautiful, troubled Dominique Marceau came to Bohemian Paris to escape the suffocation of provincial life, only to wind up in a courtroom accused of a terrible crime, the murder of her lover. As the trial commences and the lawyers begin tangling over Dominique's fate, Henri-Georges Clouzot's Oscar-nominated La Vérité delves into her past, reconstructing her struggle to find a foothold in the city. What emerges is a nuanced portrait of an impulsive young woman misunderstood and mistreated by those around her, and of her ultimately tragic affair with an up-and-coming conductor. Okay, yeah. But it's that delves into her past, reconstructing her struggle to find a foothold in the city. An impulsive young woman misunderstood and mistreated by those around her. Like, those are kind of like key phrases there that have me even more intrigued. Continuing with the women theme, An Unmarried Woman from 1978, spine number 1032. I also feel like I've been getting into 70s films more, or at least being more open to them, because previously I would have said that the 70s is like my least favorite decade. Now I'm not so sure, because there are definitely some standout films and films that I love from the 70s, but also a lot of misses. A lot of misses. But I think I've been openly exploring the 70s more, namely with like some Joan Micklin Silver films, and I think that I know that's one of the reasons why this was like a little bit more on my radar, but I remember adding this to my next Criterion sale letterbox list, because this stars Kelly Bishop, who plays Emily Gilmore in The Gilmore Girls, and back in November, I think, or November, December, I listened to the audiobook of her memoir, The Third Gilmore Girl, and I didn't know that she was in this movie, but she like briefly talked about it, and her being in it was enough to get me to think about it more seriously and add it to my sale list. The back says, one woman's journey of self-discovery brings about a warmly human cultural conversation about female liberation in this wonderfully frank, funny chronicle of changing 1970s sexual politics by Paul Mazursky. Mazursky? When her husband of 16 years abruptly leaves her for a younger woman, Manhattan gallery worker Erica finds herself alone and adrift, but also freshly empowered to explore her needs and desires as she tests the waters of a new relationship with a charismatic artist. Candidly addressing issues of sex, intimacy, loneliness, and divorce from an unabashedly feminist perspective, An Unmarried Woman makes the simple but radical assertion that a woman's most important relationship is the one she has with herself. I love that! Okay. It also says that Jill Clayburgh, who plays Erica, was nominated for an Oscar for this role, and it's what she's most well known for. I have to admit, I don't know if I even know who Jill Clayburgh is. I don't really know what else to say about this, but I'm looking forward to watching it. You know, the month is almost over, and now I'm realizing that, like, it's Women's History Month, so maybe I should have made sure to get to them. However, my mind is kind of two other places right now. One is honestly just music. It's a big music month for me. I was not expecting that, but it's actually pretty good, because I feel like I've been like in a music rut a little bit, just like listening to the same songs over and over and over and over again that I've been listening to for the past however many months, and now I'm finally listening to, like, honestly, things from like last year that I just never listened to, but it's taken over. And March has been a music month. The other thing that I'm doing this month is what do we call it? Mystery movie madness. And it's basically one of the Discord servers that I'm in with other people who are film buffs and collect movies and such, also into Criterion. We're doing this game where those who are participating, we're all recommending each other a movie. Each person receives a movie. How am I phrasing this? I recommended a movie to everyone. Each person gets a different movie based on what I think that they would like, but also I was just kind of thinking of, oh, this may not be on your radar, and you may enjoy this or have a good experience, interesting experience watching it. I kind of had that mindset as well. I think only like one person had a movie in their watch list that was the one that I like recommended. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I gave each person a different movie, and then they all gave me a different movie individually. Oh my god. the phrasing here. But anyway, one of the movies that I was recommended anonymously, we don't know who chose which movie, although I think mine are kind of obvious. Mine are the ones that are like, what is this movie? But yeah, one of the movies that I was recommended is The Cranes Are Flying. And so I kind of went, this was one of the ones, this one and the next one are the two that I was like, should I get these two or should I get these two? And now I can't remember what the other ones were. Oh my God, no, I think one was To Die For. And I was like, am I really not going to get To Die For? Because I was going to get it last summer and then it was like sold out everywhere and it wasn't available to order online. And it was like, one of two movies that I wanted for sure, and I couldn't get it, and I was like, I'm really not going to get To Die For again. But I decided to get The Cranes Are Flying because I do think that I'm really going to love it, and of course it was recommended to me specifically, so I thought I would add it to my collection and watch it on the disc instead of watching it from the Criterion channel. So this is a Russian film, Soviet film from 1957, spine number 146. Oh yeah, this was like only available on DVD for a really long time too. I think I only got an upgrade, I want to say a couple years ago maybe. 2020, okay. What's time? And this one has to do with a couple, and they're like in love, and then the war, World War II, I'm pretty sure, like comes between them. I don't know how like romantic it is, but it has like that romance at the center, but also is a war story. Sorry, the cover is not focusing very well. It doesn't look very good on the camera. I also know that this is just like a really loved film. I'm pretty sure it's in like Letterboxd's top 100 movies. Or what do they do? Do they do 100 or do they do 250 or 200? Something. You know how like there's like The Crown? Whatever that is. I know that this movie has that. I don't know. I just feel like it's very beloved. And I know a lot of people were waiting for it to be upgraded. Also, it's kind of nice to branch out in terms of the Russian films or Soviet films that I have and that I've seen, because I think most of the ones that I have are in that like fairy tale and folktale realm. And then lastly, I'm going to consider this to be in like the 30s adjacent films, even though we're definitely past the 30s at this point because this is from 1946. However, it's an Ernst Lubitsch film, and I feel like he's most well known as being like a 30s director. Like those are the movies that people know the best from him. And so this is Cluny Brown, again from 46. Spine number 997. There were a few Ernst Lubitsch films that I was thinking about getting. I know that Heaven Can Wait was also in my cart at one point. I think one of the reasons why I decided not to get that one is because I've seen it before. And this one, it kind of feels like a cult classic gem in a way, even though it's like from the 40s, so it's kind of strange to call it a cult classic. Among Criterion collectors, and particularly those who are more interested in old Hollywood films, I know that this is like high in people's lists. And perhaps it has been looked over in the past in terms of Ernst Lubitsch films, and now has been like getting its time in the sun. And what? Jennifer Jones plays a quirky plumber. She's holding a wrench, and I know that there's like images of her under the sink. I watched like a clip where she's working under the sink. Oh, this is another World War II film. The final film completed by Ernst Lubitsch, this zany, zippy comedy of manners, set in England on the cusp of World War II, is one of the worldly wise director's most effervescent creations. I love the word effervescent. Jennifer Jones shines in a rare comedic turn as Cluny Brown, an irrepressible heroine with a zeal for plumbing. Cute. Sent to work as a parlor maid at a stuffy country manor, she proceeds to turn the household upside down, with plenty of help from Adam Belinsky, played by Jacques Boyer, an eccentric continental exile who has fled, I've never heard it phrased like that, who has fled the Nazis but is still worried about where his next meal is coming from. Sending up British class hierarchy with Lubitsch's famously light touch, Cluny Brown is a topsy-turvy farce that says nuts to the squirrels and squirrels to the nuts. Topsy-turvy farce. I like that phrasing. Oh, this one has good supplements. I mean, I haven't watched them yet, obviously. But a new conversation between film critics Molly Haskell and Ferenc Smith Nem sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name, on unconventional female characters in Ernst Lubitsch's films. I hope it doesn't discuss anything I haven't seen before. New video essay by film scholar Kristen Thompson, The Lubitsch Touch, an interview with film scholar Bernard Eisenschitz from 2004. Great, so this will be another checked off Ernst Lubitsch film after I watch it. Here is the stack, and I would love to know if you have seen any of these, what you think of them, what you would recommend to me based on these movies, and what you got from the sale, if you got anything. I used some coupon vouchers, and then I also received my next $50 loyalty points gift card, so I have that to use during the next flash sale in October. Also, did anyone else realize that they now have expiration dates with the vouchers? If you didn't, now you know. Because usually it says they don't expire, but the one that I received, the week prior to the flash sale, it was like, this expires basically like in a year, but still, they used to not expire, and now they have expiration dates. So I'm making sure to use the ones that have expiration dates, assuming that they're going to continue with having expiration dates. I'm going to use those first and continue to have the other ones saved that I haven't used yet. So that was my haul. Sorry if this was kind of awkward. It's just been way too long since I've actually filmed like this, and I could feel myself being so rusty. So anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to let me know what you got in the sale, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!